The movie begins with Riddick waking up from a coma, finding himself in a barren desert. He's parched, injured, and disoriented. In the distance, he spots a small pool of water in a hole, so he crawls over to it and drinks deeply. Afterward, he retreats into a cave to tend to his injured leg. Suddenly, he hears the sound of dogs approaching from afar. Panicked, he runs and submerges himself in the water for a few minutes, hoping they'll leave. When he surfaces, he thinks the coast is clear, but to his surprise, one of the dogs is still there and attacks him. Riddick fights back, grabbing a bone he spots on the ground and throwing it to distract the dog. The plan works, and the dog chases after the bone, allowing Riddick to escape back into the cave. He spends the rest of the day there, treating his wounds. The next morning, he ventures out to explore the area and sees another waterhole in the distance, surrounded by dogs. Suddenly, a strange creature resembling a snake emerges from the water, attacking one of the dogs and poisoning it with a venomous bite before dragging it back into the water. Realizing how dangerous and intelligent these creatures are, Riddick freezes, watching them from a distance. Out of nowhere, one of the snake-like creatures lunges at him. He defends himself and manages to escape, but decides it's too dangerous to stay in the area. As he searches for a new place to hide, he comes across an abandoned ancient statue and takes shelter in a hole beneath it. While he sleeps, fragmented memories resurface. He recalls how he ended up in this desolate place and who is responsible for his exile. Flashing back, we see Riddick as a leader, ruling over an entire city. However, he had many enemies, especially after his last war. One of his rivals was the army commander Falco, who envied Riddick's position and sought to kill him. Falco tells Riddick, "During the war, I saw someone from planet Florus with eyes just like yours. Take me to Florus and give me its map." Riddick refuses, but Falco threatens him with a knife. To save himself, Riddick orders one of his guards, Cran, to escort Falco to Florus. Crane takes Riddick and a group of soldiers to planet Florus, where they land on a mountain peak. Riddick is shocked to find the planet abandoned and lifeless. It's then he realizes he's been tricked. This was all part of Falco's plan to get rid of him and take his place. Suddenly, Cran orders the soldiers to kill Riddick. Realizing their betrayal, Riddick fights back, killing the guards. He notices a crack in the mountain and shoots at it until it collapses, triggering a massive landslide. Thinking Riddick is dead, Cran rejoices. Back in the present, Riddick is trying to adapt to his harsh new reality. His first step is to adopt a small dog, raising it as his companion. His second step is to hunt scorpions, extracting their venom to inject himself and the dog, gradually building immunity to poisonous creatures. Weeks pass, and Riddick ventures back to the cave with the water hole. This time, he sets a trap for the snake-like creature and kills it, securing the area for himself. 2 months later, the dog has grown, and they've become close companions. One day, while exploring for hours, Riddick discovers an abandoned power station with communication devices capable of reaching other planets. However, it's clear the station hasn't been operational for a long time. He begins brainstorming ways to lure a spaceship to the planet so he can steal it and return home to seek revenge against those who betrayed him. As he's thinking, his dog starts barking loudly, a sign that heavy rain is coming. Riddick knows this is bad news because the rain awakens the underground predators, making them more aggressive. He quickly returns to the station and activates a distress signal, hoping to attract passing ships. We then learn that Riddick is a wanted man with a $1,000 bounty on his head due to Falco's betrayal. 3 hours later, a spaceship lands in response to the distress signal. Its captain, Santon, is a mercenary who will do anything for money. He's brought a woman as a hostage on his ship. Upon arrival, Santon orders his crew to release her, but as she runs away, he coldly shoots her from a distance, killing her. Watching this, Riddick feels a mix of anger and sadness, not just for the woman, but for his own tragic circumstances. Moments later, a second spaceship lands, led by Arcalarn. Unlike Santon, Arcalarn is there to investigate the distress call, not to kill Riddick. He confronts Santon, asking why he's here. Santon dismisses him, claiming he's only interested in claiming the bounty. That night, Santon's team sets up advanced sensors to locate Riddick, but the sensors pick up the dog instead. Riddick uses this opportunity to steal their control device, disabling their equipment remotely. Realizing what happened, Santon sets off to find Riddick himself, ignoring Arcalarn's warnings. Meanwhile, Riddick sets traps for Santon's men, which are caught on camera. Despite being alerted, Santon pushes forward, determined to capture Riddick. One of Santon's men eventually falls into a trap and dies, which freaks Santon out and forces him to retreat. Feeling helpless, Santon approaches R and proposes teaming up to kill Riddick. However, R flatly refuses to work with them. The next morning, we meet a sniper woman who manages to tag Riddick and his dog with a tracking device from a distance. Using the device, Santon's team tracks Riddick back to his cave. But when they arrive, he's already gone. Meanwhile, Riddick has infiltrated Santon and R's camp, planting devices to eavesdrop on their plans. Before leaving, he scrawls a warning on one of the camp walls. "Leave me one of your ships with enough fuel, or you're all going to die." When Santon and his men return to the camp and see the message, they panic. Santon reassures them, "There's no way he took anything from the ship. I locked all the tools in a secure vault." To be sure, they check the vault and everything is still there. Thinking they've outsmarted Riddick, they decide to leave the vault unlocked to lure him back, but Riddick is smarter than all of them. He sneaks back in, kills the guard, and steals all the equipment. When they realize what happened, Santon's crew goes into a frenzy, knowing they're now stuck on this planet with no way to leave. Santon decides to go to the cave himself to kill Riddick. By this time, Riddick has buried the stolen equipment in a hidden location. He returns to the camp and surrenders himself, knowing they won't harm him as long as he holds the ship's tools. When they confront him, he says, "Before we do anything, let's make a deal. You give me one of the ships, and in return, I'll give you back the tools for the other ship. This way, you can survive and leave this planet as fast as possible. Because when it starts raining, every deadly creature living underground will surface, and they're not something you want to mess with." Santon refuses the deal, turns his back on Riddick, and starts walking away. But as he does, he draws his gun. Before he can shoot, Riddick's dog leaps at him, biting him. Riddick pulls out his weapon and fights back, but the sniper shoots him with a tranquilizer dart from a distance. Riddick collapses to the ground, watching helplessly as Santon shoots his dog, killing it. When Riddick wakes up, 15 minutes later, he's tied up aboard one of the ships. Santon mocks him, saying, "Why did you kill my son?" Riddick is confused, replying, "I didn't kill anyone. I don't even know your son." R interjects, "I've done my part. You can kill him now." Another crew member interrupts, saying, "Let's focus on fixing the ship first before the rain starts." Santon snaps back, accusing Riddick of lying about the rain. But as they argue, a heavy downpour begins, just as Riddick warned. The ground sensors light up, detecting a swarm of creatures emerging from underground. Chaos breaks out as the crew locks themselves inside the ship, terrified. Santon, still obsessed with the bounty, confronts Riddick. They fight, with Riddick managing to kick Santon away and throw a knife at him, killing him. Riddick then convinces the remaining crew to release him, promising to help them retrieve the tools they need to escape. Riddick leads them to the tools, accompanied by his ally, Zill. Riding motorcycles through the rain, they push forward at full speed, dodging venomous creatures. Along the way, they're ambushed by Shan, another bounty hunter seeking the reward for Riddick. But Riddick overpowers Shan and kills him. Before dying, Shan shoots at their motorcycles, destroying them. Forced to continue on foot, Riddick and the crew fend off waves of attacking creatures. Exhausted, Riddick collapses, leaving the crew to take the tools back to the ship. Alone, Riddick crawls up a mountain, but is ambushed by a group of creatures. He fights them off with what little strength he has left, but just as one of the creatures is about to kill him, a powerful laser beam strikes it from a distance. Riddick looks up to see a spaceship approaching. It's R returning to save him. R rescues Riddick, treats his wounds, and gives him one of the ships. Grateful, Riddick thanks R and departs, determined to return to his home planet. Upon arriving, Riddick immediately seeks revenge. He confronts Cran, demanding to know Falco's whereabouts. Cran reveals that Falco took over as ruler and moved to the underworld. Riddick kills Cran and decides to venture into the underworld to confront Falco, reclaim his throne, and take back what's rightfully his. And that's where the movie ends.